Oftentimes, when reading or discussing history for a while, you start to notice some common ideas amongst history enthusiasts. One of these ideas is that of the great man theory of history. But what exactly is this theory? What makes a great man? Who are these supposed great men? And is it really an accurate way of looking at history? All of these questions will be answered in today's video. The great man theory essentially states that leaders are born with innate qualities that differentiate themselves from others. Applied to history, this means that centuries of human development have been primarily caused by and aided by a select few natural-born leaders and memorable names. In the words of one of the biggest advocates for this theory, 19th century historian Thomas Carlyle, "The history of the world is but a biography of great men." The theory seems to be loosely connected to the Darwinian theory of evolution in Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch. Proponents of the great man theory view society as an organism that undergoes the same evolutionary process as individual living organisms, and it is those in history who are able to overcome their environment who steer the boat towards the future. Supporters of this theory would likely focus entirely on certain household names in history. Some examples of such individuals might include Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, George Washington, and Napoleon Bonaparte. Thomas Carlyle himself named Oliver Cromwell, the Prophet Muhammad, Dante, Shakespeare, and more as examples of such figures. What all of these figures have in common is that they seem to rise above their natural status in society and both disrupted and reformed in such a way that the world was forever impacted by their individual input. They came to power or influence when it seemed that they were most needed, either willingly or unwillingly, and set precedents on leadership that would last well after their deaths. The great man theory has naturally caused a lot of controversy, especially among some of the more scientific-minded. In Carlyle's time, a biologist and sociologist by the name of Herbert Spencer would criticize the theory for being unscientific. As opposed to being exceptional individuals that were beyond society, great men were simply products of their environment, according to Spencer. Adding on to that, many contemporary historians criticize the great man theory for being outdated, having a uniquely Victorian understanding of history that cannot be used accurately in a modern context. In Thomas Carlyle's book on heroes, hero worship, and the heroic in history, the man applies a mystical element to the heroic archetype, describing it as a person appointed by God and saying that modern society needs to celebrate and uplift the heroic to that of a divine status on earth. His use of the term man as well as the people he actually names as being heroes of history also seems to assert that women have never or are incapable of assuming positions of history-bending leadership in this sense. Now, of course, in spite of the criticisms and the glaring flaws of the great man theory, it is still a somewhat useful and relevant way of looking at history. Many historians will still look to specific individuals and their contributions to society when conducting research, and it is undeniable that some of the characters named in this video truly have changed the world in ways that wouldn't have happened without their influence. For example, it is plausible that the Macedonians could have never had created such a vast empire if it hadn't been for Alexander, and it's possible that the Roman Empire would have never developed the way it did if it hadn't been for Julius Caesar, and France would have collapsed into endless civil wars if it hadn't been for Napoleon. Still, numerous books, articles, and essays are written and published every year about the lives and influence of those who are considered great men. It is clear then that, in spite of its criticisms and flaws, the great man view of history has had a substantial influence on how we now understand the past. I hope this video helped to give a better understanding of the great man theory of history and some of its views, proponents, criticisms, and uses. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.